Hi. So I want to start by saying that I was surprised by the popularity of my videos on anger. I feel like I really did tap into something that many people need and people are very confused about. And I've been receiving a lot of requests for more videos on anger. So today I want to talk to you about something that I feel is very, very important. And once I learned this, I had much more ability to manage my anger and assert myself in a way that others could hear. So, I want to share with you today 7 steps toward skillful means for dealing with anger. So, if you've been watching my videos, you know that I talk about how emotions give us information and how anger is a super important emotion for us. It really is. And our society, really puts anger down. But the emotion of anger is different than the acting out of anger. Okay, so you know that if you've seen some of my other videos. If you haven't and you're new to my channel, welcome. I'll link some of those other videos here, and if you find this useful, please do give it a like. It's a big help. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Okay, so why use skillful means for anger? Well, so you can accomplish what you want to, right? So you can address the root cause of the anger. And what does skillful means mean, right? So I actually learned that term within Buddhism, right? It's a major term in Buddhism to use skillful means to deal with our emotions rather than just reacting and acting out, but to understand them and then decide what we can do about it. So skillful means is a type of wisdom. It's a type of slowing things down, being mindfully present with what actually is happening. That whole boundary question of what's within our control, what's not within our control, right? Skillful means incorporates the reality of the situation and then also has an element of heart and compassion and understanding for our fellow humans. So that's kind of just a very quick summary of skillful means. But I think as I go through these 7 steps, you will understand how all of that comes in. All right. So the number one step, and this is actually the most critical step for dealing with your anger skillfully, is to put space in between the feeling and the action. So the problem with anger comes from our reactivity, right? We get very reactive when we're angry and we either explode, right, or attack, or we withdraw, we hide, we flee, or some of us freeze, right? Those are all almost physiological reactions that are very primitive. They're really part of our primitive old brain. And we usually, the fight, flight, freeze, most of us have one that we prefer. If we tend towards fight, other people will see us as angry. But if we tend towards fleeing, right, others will see us as avoidant and maybe freezing also, but you still might have anger. So there are no skillful means available if we are super reactive. So probably this step number one probably requires an entire video on its own because slowing that down is not always easy. I totally understand. And as you begin to do this work, like as you begin to really work on this, you will find that your awareness grows before you can actually control your reaction. And that's actually okay, right? That awareness is going to grow before you can control it. But as the awareness grows, as you begin to observe more and more, you will develop more and more of an ability to not react. And then you will have the opportunity to respond. 2 quick tools to help you with this step. One of them is diaphragmatic breathing, my go to and my favorite. It goes with me everywhere. I can use it anytime. It is a very quick way to not be reactive if you learn to utilize it correctly. And there's a video on that. I'll link. And then number two is a technique that actually is taught to children in schools, sometimes like in emotional intelligence programs, but I think it's super useful for everybody. And it's stop, take 5, and think. So when you feel yourself get angry, stop, count to 5, take 5 breaths, think, pause. Okay? So that's step one. Now, these skillful means steps are not going to be ones that you can use immediately in the moment on the spot, right? That's a little bit of a different approach. And I also probably should have said up front that these are skillful means to deal with yourself feeling angry. There are different skillful means if we are dealing with somebody else who is angry, right? There is a similarity, and I will try to get to that one of these days with a video, but this is really for you. And I encourage you that in most situations where we get angry, really an immediate response is often not needed, and an immediate response can be destructive. Okay, just wanted to put that out there. All right, number two is to explore the emotions under your anger. And I did put out a video visualization on anger and getting under it and exploring the emotions. And I honestly, I got rave reviews on that video. And that was another one that just surprised me as to how popular it was, because my meditation videos aren't always as popular, but this one really hit a nerve. So to encourage you to come back, I think going through these 7 steps, right, is will be helpful to do it all at once. But then to come back and use that visualization to explore the emotions that are under your anger, because those are likely to be the real emotions driving what's happening. So just to encourage you to do that, I want to read you a couple of comments that I received on the channel on that particular video. One person wrote, "I found this an eye-opener for me, especially the part where you guide us to look below the surface and identifying underlying emotions. A tremendous video which I will revisit every day for several days to deal with a lot of anger in my life. Thanks." Someone else wrote, "Thank you, Barbara. I started crying before you even mentioned allowing myself to cry." Not to scare you away with that one. "It's crazy to me how much the anger physically affects me, and I didn't even realize it until you guided us through this. This was great, very, very helpful." Okay, enough on that, but that is really a core, because exploring those underlying emotions, often it's actually because we're hurt, right? Or because we're scared. Something is going on that's causing our anger, and in order to use skillful means, it's important to identify that. Okay, step number 3. What do I want to accomplish here, right? That's a very important question to ask yourself before you decide to take action on the situation causing your anger. What do you want to accomplish? Do you want to alienate this person and never see them again? Well, that would lead you down one direction with your actions, but usually that's not the case. So, usually the answer is something along the lines of, I want this person to respect my boundary, or I don't want this person to do something here that they've been doing. Yet I also want to maintain the relationship, right? I want to be able to keep coming to work. I want to maintain my job. I want to maintain my marriage or my relationship, right? So, big picture thinking about, what do I want to accomplish? Very important before I take action, right? I mean, all this makes sense, but none of it's going to happen unless you can slow the whole process down. And I'll be honest, like sometimes this kind of stops me, because I was in a situation recently where there was sort of a little bit of a conflict with my spouse. And generally, we're able to talk things through pretty well. But I wasn't really clear on what was upsetting me. Like, I was upset and I verbalized that, but I wasn't super clear on it. And my impulse was to sort of rant or attack or be self righteous, definitely be self righteous. But then there's a part of me like, okay, what do I want to accomplish here? Like, I don't want to turn this into a huge issue, because it's not one, really. I don't want to alienate him. But right now, I also don't feel like I really want to stay connected either, right? So, like, all the feelings were mixed up. So, that's a signal to me that I am not yet ready to really talk about it or process it. And I need to ask for some time, which is what I did. I pretty much said, I don't really understand yet what is totally going on for me. I know I'm upset, but I don't really know why. I need a little time. Because these questions that I'm asking you, like in the moment, you may not be able to access them very quickly. So, what do you want to accomplish? And along with the what do I want to accomplish, to bring in a sense of compassion and connection. Because, and this can really, like, obviously, this really varies by situation, but let's say it's like a relationship that's usually pretty good, like mine with my spouse, right? I need to bring in some compassion for him, the desire for the connection, some understanding of where he's coming from, so I can figure out how best to explain what I need once I figure it out, right? So in that whole system of what's the big picture, bringing in compassion and empathy can really help. And even if it's a work situation with somebody you don't like, I do believe it benefits us to bring in an element of compassion and empathy for this other person who may be very deluded, may be very confused and obnoxious and all sorts of horrible things, right? But they're not happy. And we can sort of have compassion for them if they're really that negative and threatened and attacking, right? So just bringing that into the extent you can. And I also want to say that if this is somebody who's incredibly toxic, manipulative, abusive, maybe the compassion is actually for yourself. Okay? I don't want anybody to feel like, oh, I have to feel compassionate for this person and therefore let them get away with what they're doing. I'm not saying that at all. Compassion does not excuse inexcusable behavior. Okay? It doesn't. So, big picture, what do you want to accomplish? All right, then point number 4. What is it I need to accept about this situation? And it might be something I really don't want to accept. What is the reality? And again, acceptance, similar to compassion, does not mean I have to roll over and accept something that's happening that's not okay. Not in the least. What I mean by acceptance is to really accept what is actually happening, what you're powerless over, what you're not powerless over. So, for example, if you're in a relationship with somebody who never considers your feelings, right? That's a pretty lousy place to be. But if that person never considers your feelings, can you accept they never consider your feelings? And therefore, what can you do? So, acceptance leads us to a therefore, right? A sort of a sillier example is if you marry somebody who's a slob, right? Like they're really a slob, and you marry them and you think, oh, they'll get better as they get older, and they don't. Well, you might have a lot of anger at them for something that's very natural to them, and it may not change. So, if you married somebody who's a slob and you accept that they are a slob, then what? Then what can you do? So, step number 4 for skillful means is what is it I need to accept about this situation? Step number 5, okay, given step number 4 and what I need to accept. Can I accomplish what I said I wanted to accomplish in step number 3? Okay, so if I truly accept whatever it is that I have accepted, what now do I want to accomplish? I hope that makes sense. And I will run through, I think probably it'll be a different video just because of the timing and such, but I will run through a couple of examples of how to apply these steps in a variety of situations. Step number 6, which actually doesn't necessarily have to be done prior to step number 7, but step number 6 is to think about what you can do to take care of the underlying emotions, right? So the underlying emotions that you identified in step number 2, hurt, fear, whatever those core, it's not fair. What do you need to do for yourself to take care of those emotions rather than looking to somebody else to immediately take care of them? Or do I need to explain those deeper emotions, right, in order to accomplish what I want? So, in the example that I talked about earlier with my spouse, where I said I had all this like confusion, I wasn't really sure what I was upset about, it took me a while to realize like what had hurt my feelings. So, step number 6 of what can I do about the fact that that hurt my feelings is I do have a loving partner. I'm very lucky in that way. So, if I'm able to express that to him in a way he can hear it, he can then comfort me, right? But I also think comforting myself before that is important. Like, there does need to be a sense of self comfort as well, so that it doesn't become like a demand, like, you have to do this, right? It's more like, hey, I want to stay connected, and this is what hurt my feelings, and maybe I need reassurance. Maybe I need you just simply to understand why, right? And then step number 7 is assertive communication. Assertive, not passive, not aggressive, assertive communication. Super important, a fairly complicated topic. I do spend time on this in the boundary program I have, which right now at the moment is full, but there is a wait list if you want to check it out. Link is below. I can post the link here as well. But I do have a boundary program that really goes through how do we assert ourselves confidently, but also calmly, so that the other person can hear. So once we've figured out what we need to do about the situation, we then have to turn it into language that allows the other person to hear it. Because if I go at somebody with anger, I guarantee they will respond with one of the reactive responses of either fight, flight, or freeze. Usually, if I attack, somebody else attacks back, right? People get triggered easily by an angry attack. And then you're not actually accomplishing what it is you want to accomplish. You're not getting anything changed. You're not getting understood. So, assertive communication is really about how do I speak about this from my point of view without attacking in a way the other person can hear it, so we can have a conversation rather than a huge fight where honestly nobody is listening to each other. All right. So I know these steps are complicated. I'm going to link a few other videos I have. Some of this work also takes some deeper work, and I do go into that in actually both of the online coaching programs that I have. The roadmap program is 6 months, and it really goes through a deep understanding of yourself and your emotions, and it has a boundary section in it. And then I have a more focused boundary course, 6 weeks long. But anger and boundaries, very linked, because we get angry when somebody crosses our boundaries. We get angry at ourselves when we don't stand up for ourselves. All of those are boundary questions. Even that question I put in about the what can I do about it? What's within my control? What's not? What do I need to accept? Those are also boundary issues. All right. I hope this is helpful. Let me know. Leave a comment below. I'm going to try to record right away later this afternoon another video that goes into some examples of how to apply these skillful means. So hopefully I'll remember to come back and link it here, but if I don't, check out my channel. There's a lot there. Comment below. I love getting your comments. I try to respond when I can. If you liked it, give it a like, and I really, really appreciate your time. I am honored you spend it on my channel, and I'll see you next week.